Groundbreaking science was happening in the universities, but it had very little effect on the way medicine was practiced. Right up until the 19th century, most people were not using scientific medicine. People thought about the body and illness in a completely different way. Everyone, rich and poor, used herbs to make medicines. People believed that every plant was a possible cure. Its flowers, leaves, the bark of trees, seeds, stems, roots. Many people grew their own herbs or picked them from where they grew wild, as we can see in this image from the 15th century. We know, for example, that many herbs were used to make the body get rid of fluids. Some could make patients vomit. Senna was a laxative. Dandelions were used to make people urinate. Herbs could be boiled or dried and crushed in a mortar and pestle, then mixed with water or honey to make the medicine. If a recipe only used one herb, then it was called a simple. But there were also recipes that needed many ingredients. A medicine called theriac had been described in ancient times, and it needed more than 60 ingredients. There was a wide variety of medicine on offer. A lot of it was based on experience. People knew remedies worked because they'd worked in the past. There were also other theories. The theory of signatures meant that if a herb looked like a lung, it was used to treat the lung. Or if a walnut looked like a brain, it was used to treat the brain. Some medicine was based on ideas about magic, or according to star signs. People also bought the medicines ready-made. Shops like this existed in the 14th century. They were called apothecaries. The apothecary would make up prescriptions from the doctor or sell you his own medicines. These are apothecary signs from the 15th century. They chose to show themselves with a mortar and pestle. As well as plants, many medicines contain minerals like chalk, earth, gold, mercury, iron and salt. They also use parts of animals, bones, blood, hair and teeth. The stuffed crocodile was a kind of advertising gimmick, reminding the apothecary's customers that he was a man who was used to handling strange and exotic ingredients. By the 16th century, an apothecary like Vesalius' father could offer a much wider range of ingredients. When travellers sailed to India, Africa and the Middle East, the supply of spices like nutmeg, cloves and cinnamon increased. When they sailed to the Americas, they brought things which were completely unknown in Europe, different trees, oils and plants. All of these increased the range of cures on offer. The fashion for new medicines from abroad was used by the travelling doctors who turned up at country fairs with bottles of pills and potions. These doctors were often the only ones ever seen by people in the countryside, and they would carry out everything from taking out your teeth to selling your ribbons. Some of them were seen as genuinely useful, but many of the sources, like these cartoons, show them as con men and tricksters. And this is how they continued to be shown right up to the 19th century. Many people used these doctors, but most ordinary people didn't leave a written record. The people who did leave records were the university-educated doctors who were very opposed to anyone who had not been trained in a university. This is what John Keyes said about quacks.
They come from Italy, Greece, France and Turkey, claiming to have come straight from the service of the emperor, promising to cure you with a drink of their potions. In my opinion, you should stay as far away from them as possible.
Well-educated doctors like Keyes still studied the books of the ancient Greeks from 1500 years ago and followed their ideas about balancing the body with regular bleeding, diet and exercise. John Keyes blamed many illnesses on lack of exercise and overindulgence in fine foods.
Englishmen these days are so delicate and womanly that they can hardly stand a bit of fresh air and a plain diet, unlike the Scots, who are much healthier It starts with the children. Children nowadays are brought up in a way that if they don't spend the day sitting by the fire, wrapped in furs, eating buttered toast, they fall ill straight away.
As well as being treated by these doctors, people also relied very much on their own knowledge and the knowledge of their friends and neighbours. Rich and poor people alike took on the responsibility of treating themselves and making their own medicines. Doctors were all male, but in most households it was the women who made medicines and treated their families. We know this because of the recipe books that survive. In rich households throughout the land, the lady of the manor was expected to be able to prepare medicines. Recipe books like this were handed down from mother to daughter. Each owner added new recipes to them. No written records survive from poorer women, but historians believe that they also handed down recipes. They couldn't write, so they must have handed them down by word of mouth. There's very little evidence about this, but it is mentioned by some writers, such as Robert Burton, a doctor who wrote in 1621.
Many an old wife or countrywoman often does more good with a few common garden herbs than these loud-mouthed physicians with their far-fetched medicines.
There was a lot of opposition to women taking a leading role in medicine. When herbals began to be printed, they were herbals written by men. But books like these brought together the knowledge of many men and women. Scientific medicine today is very different to the medical care experienced by most people up until the 19th century. The work of scholars like Vesalius and Harvey had little effect at first, but most of today's medicine is based on their ways of working. They helped to start a scientific revolution.